Hey guys, this is Kevin from JazTime.com. JazTime.com is an online store that buys, sells, trades authentic luxury watches. We make this video so our customers can easily choose the best watch for themselves in the comfort of their own home. We offer the lowest prices anywhere online. If you'd like to know the price, simply click on the links in the description below. If you enjoy our videos, we would greatly appreciate if you would buy a watch from JazTime.com once in a while. Alright, so let's go ahead and move on to our comparison today. Today we'll be reviewing the Rolex Yacht-Master 40, reference number 116622, and that's the one on my left, versus the Rolex Deepsea that was newly updated at the Basel World Show 2018. Here on my right, reference number 126660. We'll be going over the dial, bezels, case, crown, bracelet, clasp, and we'll talk about the movements towards the end of the video. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump right into the dial. So as we can see, similar style hour markers, which is the maxi dial hour markers, which is the circular hour markers, and then see 6, 9, and triangular 12 o'clock position markers. Triangular 12 to have an easier landmarking, to have an at a glance look more quickly, be able to adjust your time more quickly. Not only that, the hour markers and the hands are all luminescent with a highly legible chromolite display with long lasting blue luminescence. So they both of the watches have great visibility in the dark and during the day. In the dark, like I said, it will glow with blue luminescence, and that's for both of these watches. As you can see, the main difference is the color of the dials. We have just the black Deepsea dial, whereas the Yacht-Master, we have more of a more colorful dial, being a nice beautiful rhodium dial, which is sort of like a dark gray sort of dial with a light blue contrasting with the Yacht-Master name in light blue and the second hand in light blue. Not saying that the Deepsea does not have additional configurations. There's actually a limited version called the James Cameron D Blue version, where there's a beautiful gradient from blue to black with the Deepsea name in a nice green color to commemorate the James Cameron Deepsea Challenge. You can learn more about that on the Deepsea standalone video we have on our YouTube channel. But besides that, the other colors that the Yacht-Master 40 comes in is a blue dial, not the light blue you see here, but just a typical dark blue Rolex dial with red Yacht-Master name and red second hand instead. So different color choices, but none of these, just the standard sporty style, just black. The other difference here is at the date window, we have a Cyclops lens on top of that sapphire crystal for the Yacht-Master 40. We don't have that for the Deepsea, mainly because for the Deepsea, the crystal thickness of the Deepsea is a 5.5 millimeter thick crystal, so much larger than the Yacht-Master's sapphire crystal. And because of that thickness, it sort of has its own magnification because of that. So the sapphire crystal is unnecessary on the Deepsea. The other difference is at the very edge of the Deepsea, we see this original gas escape valve ring lock system at the very outer edge of the dial. And what that's for is that what that is for the helium escape valve, which I'll talk more about later on in the video in the case, as there's something I need to show you at the case portion of it. But other than that, another minor difference, this was actually updated on the Deepsea, is at the 6 o'clock position. You see the Swiss made here, and the Swiss made on the Yacht-Master 40. They actually just added the Rolex crown logo in between that Swiss made now. So very small minor difference there. Okay, moving on to the bezel now. So as you can see, differences in bezel as well. For the Yacht-Master 40, we have this beautiful 950 platinum bidirectional rotatable 60-minute graduated with raised numerals, nicely high polished. The Deepsea has a ceramic bezel, which ceramic serochrome bezel, black, nicely finished, so it looks like it's a very beautiful high polish. It has the gradations from or graduations from 0 to 60. The large indices being 5 millimeter increments, and Arabic numerals from 10, 10, 20, and 30, and so on. So similar there. But the indices go all the way around to that 60-minute mark, whereas the Yacht-Master only goes up to that 15-minute mark. You can see by the difference in indices. Of course, different materials as well. Platinum for the Yacht-Master 40, ceramic, black ceramic for the Deepsea. And one thing that I mentioned was that the Yacht-Master 40s is bidirectional but the Deepsea is unidirectional. What that means is that the bezel turns both ways on the Yacht-Master, whereas for the Deepsea it only turns one way and you can't turn it the other way. And that's due to the functions of both watches being used for different purposes. They still do the same thing, which is tracking elapsed time. So you can track elapsed time by moving the triangular marker to the minute hand and track the elapsed time from there in minutes. However, the Yacht-Master 40s, the Yacht-Master 40, as the name states, Yacht-Master, it's used for yacht racing, so you can easily adjust on the fly, tracking yacht races lap time. Whereas for the Deepsea, it's a professional diver's watch. If you're diving professionally and you're underwater, you might not notice, but you might bump your bezel against a rock or something, and then you accidentally shift it the other way. What if you're using that to track your elapsed time for your oxygen tank, like you had 15 minutes or so in your oxygen tank, and you're tracking it from that 15-minute mark, and then you accidentally bump it the other way, you'll give a false reading, and that can be fatal. So that's why the bezel is only unidirectional in terms of moving only one way, so you can set it and then not accidentally bump it and give a false reading. Otherwise, it can still be used to do the same thing as the Yacht-Master and just track lap times as well. It's just simply used to track elapsed time, but I'm just letting you know that's the difference. Why this is a bidirectional, the Yacht-Master 40 is a bidirectional, and this is why the Deepsea is a unidirectional. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to the case now. So the case size of the Yacht-Master 40 is, as the name says, Yacht-Master 40 millimeters in diameter for the case size, whereas the Deepsea is 44 millimeters in diameter, so 4 millimeters larger than the Yacht-Master. But the main difference between the case is the side profile, which shows how large the Deepsea is compared to the Yacht-Master 40. So Yacht-Master almost looks like it's stacked two of them on top of each other just to compare to the Deepsea. Okay. One thing I wanted to mention, as I was talking earlier about the original escape valve, which is this located by this circular marker on the side of the case. This is actually the helium escape valve, which is Rolex's ingenious way of protecting professional divers' watches. So basically, when you're deep sea diving, specifically for the water resistance, we're looking at 100 meters to 330 feet for the Yacht-Master, but the Deepsea goes 3,900 meters or 12,800 feet. So when you're down that low and you have to come up from that depth up to the surface again, you have to go through a depressurization chamber, and that chamber is filled with mixture of gases, helium being one of them, and that helium can actually go into the watch and actually pop the crystal out from the front of the watch, just due to the buildup in gas pressure. But this helium escape valve is ingenious. Once the pressure of the watch reaches a certain bar pressure, it actually opens up and just lets that helium gas escape. So cool little nifty feature there if you're looking to do deep sea diving. Otherwise, moving on to the other side of the case, you can see the side still high polished as well. Obviously larger crown for the larger case size, and the crown protector is nicely high polished. The crown functions are the same for both. Watches. They're both screw down, or rather, the Yacht-Master 40 is a screw down double waterproofness system, and the Deepsea is a screw down triple waterproofness system. I'm just going to go ahead and show you the functions using the Yacht-Master 40. Both of these watches have the same function on the crown, so you unscrew it counterclockwise as shown, which leads you to the standard position, which you can wind the watch. About 15 to 20 winds is all you need to get the watch started once more. Pulling the crown out to the next position. Oops. Pulling the crown out to the next position will allow you to adjust the date instantaneously as shown. Very simple, very easily. And then pulling the crown out to the final position, keep your eye on the seconds hand as it will stop in the final position. And that allows for precise time settings, such as to an atomic clock online. You can set it down to the exact seconds, and of course set the time however you like bidirectionally. Pressing the crown back in will start the seconds hand once more, and always make sure to screw the crown nice in and tight against the case, as you want to keep the crown protected between the two crown protectors, and also keep its water resistance. Once again, for the Yacht-Master is 100 meters or 330 feet, but for the Deepsea it's 3,900 meters or 12,800 feet. Moving on to the bracelet now. One thing I want to mention actually before we start the bracelet comparison here is that the for the case sizing, the case size actually is very similar to Yacht-Master 40. It's very thin lugs, but the difference here, besides that, the Yacht-Master 40s is high polished and the Deepseas is a satin finish, which are because the Yacht-Master is more of a dressier watch. It's sort of a hybrid, as you can see from the high polish on the center of the bracelet as well. But the Deepsea has actually been updated to have thinner lugs. They used to have larger lugs, and that they took a millimeter off of each lug to add it to the center of the Oyster bracelet. So you can see that the center links on the Deepsea are a little bit larger than the Yacht-Master, just only by a millimeter, and that's to just fit the overall proportions of the Deepsea, because the Deepsea used to have a smaller bracelet but a much larger casing. So now the proportions fit very nicely and look very nicely front on now. But besides that, same style bracelet, which is the Oyster style bracelet. Safety folding Oyster lock clasp, and same style bracelet at the very bottom. We'll go ahead and move on to the clasp now. As you can see, similar style clasp, but the Yacht-Master's 40s is a little bit smaller compared to the Deepseas, but the same style of security, which is the safety on top of the folding Oysters. So safety locks open. These are the safeties. And then the folding Oysters opens up to reveal these nicely high polished clasp blades with the Rolex name embossed onto that high polished clasp blade there. So specifically, each watch has a different different clasp function. For the Yacht-Master 40, you can see underneath there's a little a little bit indentation on the side of the clasp, and then because if you had a tool, you can see these little pins at the very edge of the bracelet. You can adjust the bracelet 5 millimeters inward or outward, allowing for more comfortability on the wrist, such as a hot summer day, your wrist swells up a little bit more. You want to be able to adjust so their watch isn't choking your wrist, or vice versa on colder days. But the Deepsea has a more ingenious way of going about it, and that's at a 45-degree angle, you can pull the bracelet off, and you see these little riveted edges. It actually gives you more control of how you can fit the watch bracelet on your wrist, and that's simply opened up at the top of the clasp. You'll be able to adjust for 2 millimeter increments for a total adjustment of 20 millimeters. Not only that, with divers in mind, they also added the flip lock extension system, which is right here. The flip lock also allows the bracelet to be pulled out a little bit additional link or so. And that's to allow for adjustment on a wetsuit. If you're wearing a wetsuit on your wrist, if you're wearing a wetsuit on your wrist, then you can adjust for more comfortability, have a little bit more roomier bracelet. All right, so now that we're done with the bracelets, go ahead and move on to the case now, or not the case, but the movement now. So the movement is housed in these Oyster case backs. The Yacht-Master has more of a high polished satin finish at the very edge, whereas the Deepsea has a satin finish, but it has a Sea Dweller name and the water resistance and the Rolex crown logo nicely embossed on there. And there's a water resistance over there on the right. Okay, but the movements are different. So for the Yacht-Master 40s, I'll talk about the Yacht-Master's 40s movement first. The Yacht-Master 40 is a perpetual mechanical self-winding movement. It's Rolex's in-house made movement, which has been tried and tested for over 10-20 years or so. It's their 31-35 movement. It has a precision of -2 + 2 seconds a day. Has the functions of the center, hour, minute, and seconds hand. And I've instantaneous changing of the date with precise time setting for the stopping of the seconds hand, as I've shown you with the crown functions. The oscillator is a paramagnetic blue parachrome hairspring, which allows for resistance against magnetism. And the watch has a power reserve of 48 hours, meaning you could put this down on a Friday evening, pick it back up on a Sunday afternoon, you'd be keeping time just fine. So what movement does the Deepsea have? Well, the Deepsea actually used to, the previous model of the Deepsea used to actually run that same movement, the 31-35 movement, but they've actually updated it to the 32-35 movement. So what does the 32-35 movement have? Well, for the 32-35 movement, we're looking at still in-house made perpetual mechanical self-winding movement. It's still within the Swiss specs of -2 plus 2 seconds a day, but now it has a more rigorous testing cycle, whereas the 3135 was only tested, the movement was tested outside of the watch before being put in, but now the Rolex has upped it by adding an additional step by testing the movement inside of the watch as well. So it's not only tested for precision outside of the watch, but once it goes into the watch, it's also tested to make sure it's within that Swiss spec of the -2 plus 2 seconds a day. Same functions as the previous movement though, so the center, hour, minute, and seconds hand, with the instantaneous changing of the date and the stopping of the seconds hand. However, the oscillator is still the same, paramagnetic blue paracomb hairspring, but it's now paired with what Rolex calls a chronology escapement, which is a skeletonized escapement wheel with made out of nickel phosphorus. That nickel phosphorus pairs with that paramagnetic blue paracomb hairspring to add additional magnet resistance against magnetism. And the skeletonization of that escapement wheel allows for reduced inertia, conserving energy, and also keeping the watch within that Swiss specs of the -2 plus 2 seconds a day. What I mean by the energy portion of that though is that the power reserve actually got updated because of that chronology escapement, which is now from a 48-hour power reserve, is now a 70-hour power reserve. Meaning you can put this watch on a Friday evening, pick it back up on a Monday afternoon, it'll be keeping time just fine. What else did they change on that movement? Well, they actually removed the industry standard shock absorbers, which were the KIF shock absorbers, and replaced it with their own in-house made one. They're called the Paraflex shock absorbers, which Rolex claims to absorb 50% more shocks than industry standard KIF. Now let me actually go ahead and show you these watches on my wrist now. We'll start with the Yacht-Master 40 first. So once again, locate that flip lock. Okay. All right, so Yacht-Master 40, absolutely beautiful watch. You can tell that contrasting the light blue on the dark gray looks absolutely gorgeous. The high polish on the raised numerals on that platinum bezel really add a little more shine to the watch and make it more eye-catching. That pairs with the high polish on the lugs of the case, with the high polish down on the bracelet as well. So absolutely gorgeous watch. And the profile is, again, once I stated, it's not too high off the wrist, so you can fit in the suit cuffs, dress cuffs very nicely. Moving on to the Deepsea now. Once again, locate that folding oyster lock. Okay, so folding first, lock down, and there we are. So Deepsea, absolutely just the Rolex standard black dial, ceramic bezel. That ceramic also being nicely reflecting, like looking like a high polish. It's just absolutely gorgeous, not sacrificing the durability of the high polish. Satin finish throughout the whole bracelet, but you can see that that side profile sits very high off the wrist, and I'll show you side by side comparison. You can see sits very high off the wrist, so it won't fit under your suit cuffs, dress cuffs, but it still is making a nice bold statement of being so large. So if you're interested in any of these models for the lowest possible price, check out our website JazTime.com. We have the lowest prices guaranteed when we offer a 1-year warranty. And if you liked the video, please like, comment, subscribe below. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you guys soon.
If you want to find out more about the watch you just saw in the video, you can just click below on Show More to see the full description. Then you can check the link next to Model as seen in video, click on it, and you will get to the proper page where you can see all the details. If you're watching on a mobile phone, you have to click on the arrow down on the right hand side below the video to see the full description. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. If you would like to share this video with your friends, you can use the share button below and share it on any platform you like. If you have questions, constructive feedback, want to tell us about some mistakes or misspeaks, just write a comment below. If you want to see more videos like this, you should subscribe to our channel and visit our channel page where you can find all the videos. And if you're interested in a specific watch brand, you can check out our playlists. If you want to check the price for a watch or want to buy one, remember at JazTime.com you always get a steep discount, so you should check the prices with us. If you want to know the price for a specific watch, just go to Google, type in JazTime, plus the brand, model, and the details you're interested in, and Google will find the right page for you. Thank you for watching.